everybody. Welcome to the Sacred Femme Alchemy podcast, a podcast to help you on your sacred feminine journey towards self-love and healing. I'm your host, Lisa Mae Francisco, a sacred feminine guide and mentor. In the podcast, we'll dive deep on how to heal your core wounds, reclaim your feminine power, and liberate your truth so you can be your wild, authentic self. Thanks so much for listening. I'm super excited that you're here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sacred Femme Alchemy podcast. It's been a hot minute since I have done a solo episode, and it feels really, really good. And I just got back from a leg of traveling to France. I was in the Alps. Was in Paris, and it was a beautiful, beautiful trip. If you heard about, or if you listened to my last episode, it was me going skiing with my partner's family. I was there in the Alps for a whole week. I went to ski school. It was amazing. I do like skiing now, and I also love the value that you get from when you ski in Europe. It's insane. I live in the Bay Area, so the closest place is going to Tahoe, and I just get so sick with how much the prices are and how insane it is, and how our whole ski experience in the US is basically monopolized by two companies. And in Europe, for 6 days of a collective, a group ski lessons, going to ski school for 3 hours every single day, 230 euros. That's the cost of 1 day for a group lesson. It's insane. I was thinking like, oh my God, and like all the food was there. It was amazing. Everything was amazing. The gear that you rent, better quality. And I told my partner, if you take me to Europe more to go ski, like I will love skiing. But anyways, it was a beautiful surprise and delight into doing an activity that I didn't even think that I would like, but I had a lot of resistance to, and I was just totally surprised and delighted by how fun it was. I met so many different people from all over the world, from the UK, from France, from Israel, and it was just a really beautiful experience, cheering each other on, showing up every single day to school, and really pushing ourselves to our edges of what we can and cannot do. And it just reminded me how much I love being with teachers, with coaches who can see your ability to do something better, or when they know that you're not giving it your all and they call you out on it and they push you to new heights. And we definitely went on a couple of runs where I thought, I am not prepared for that. I feel like I'm going to fall off the cliff. Like definitely there were days when my body just felt very tense, and but I just loved my instructor, who happened to be 69 years old, and he was from France. And it was just really amazing to see how he interacted with each of us, kind of understanding what each of us needed, knowing when we were tired, knowing when we were emotional, knowing when we were in our heads. And it just was I just was so surprised at how much I absolutely loved it. And it was so beautiful. So yes, I am a ski fan, willing to do it again, willing to obviously travel to Europe to go ski and do lessons, more lessons. But you just never know what surprises you. And, that was just a mini check-in with where I'm at. But, lately I've been resisting sharing on this podcast because I have been thinking about what it is that I want to share, what it is that I don't want to share. And it's just me looking at the different avenues and platforms of how I want to show up in my business, how I want to share my gifts with the world, share my offers, connect with you all, and really think about what matters most. And how does it impact you as a listener? And is this helpful? And, also aligning and connecting and staying to my truth. And I think in the last couple of months, especially after November, I'm really, really, really feeling the effects of just wanting to hunker down and be a hermit and experience winter for myself, for me, my business, for other personal things that are going on, still in the midst of moving. And wanting to be quiet and not just be on here to say something for the sake of saying something or just showing up every day, in my business. But it's really about aligning to the truth of what your soul wants to express and what it's called to do and be in here. And the initiation that I think is coming up, especially in winter, is really taking this time to go into the dark, to go into the feminine womb and think about what it is that you're here to birth. And so it made me think about, okay, what is my truth versus what are other people telling me that I need to do? And I think everyone can relate to this, whether you have a business or not, but thinking about maybe the business of your life, right? What it is that you stand for, what it is that you want to share. How do you want to spend your time? Who do you want to surround yourself with? Sometimes you may feel obligated to be around friends because you have history around them or with them and they've known you for such a long time, or you feel like you need to stay in a job because you've been in that job for a long time and that your team really needs you, or it looks good on paper, or your parents are proud of you because you're at that job, or you really need the money and you're getting sucked up into this collective idea of like, oh my gosh, everyone's having a hard time to get a job and I really, really need to just like stay in this because I know I'm so lucky and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, we can convince ourselves with the mind to be in a situation because we think it's best for us when really our heart and our body is showing us otherwise, resisting it and cringing on the inside. And what it takes to actually walk away from something or someone is this immense strength and grounding energy to know that what you're doing is right for the overall vision in your life. But we don't get there from a place of being very, very emotionally confused or conflicted. And I'm currently reading Women Who Run with the Wolves, and I've had this book for, oh my gosh, like probably 7 years. And I have tried, I have the hard copy version, I have the digital version, and there have been many times in my life of being on the spiritual path where I have tried to pick up that book. And I never make it past the Bluebeard story. I just never make it past it. And I'm like, okay, I just don't understand this. And I am currently in this book club right now where we're rereading it. Some of us are rereading it, some are reading us for the first time, like me. And every single word is just really, really, like my soul, my psyche is responding to it in a way where I'm like, holy shit, I get it. I'm drinking it. And it's the activation and the codes that are just like being downloaded into me where I understand. It's like a second language. It's learning a language. It's a pre-verbal language. And it's just making so much sense for me where every lock and key is opening a door into my soul and my heart that I didn't even recognize. And the birthing that has awakened in me is the Venusian energy. And it was so funny because I was talking about it with a girlfriend and she said to me, well, didn't you activate that when you were in Shasta? I went to a retreat in Mount Shasta in 2022. And I just remember the person, he was from, this is kind of going to get a little crazy here, like, just follow me for a second, okay? But you know what? If it's not for you, it's not for you. You can skip it. But, he very much said that he was from the planet Venus, his energy, and love, beauty, think pink, think rainbow, think sensuality, all of those different things. And, I was getting a massage while I was at that retreat. And the women also connect to the planet where you're from. And it was a very, very interesting retreat because I'd never done anything like that spiritually where we connected to galactic wisdom and that type of spirituality and light language. And it was just, wow, it was beyond me. And I was thinking, whoa. But I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that because I remember the woman was doing vision work as she was massaging my body, and we were going on this like quote unquote trip together. And, you know, there was lots of rainbows, there was pinks, there was water everywhere. And it's just like the visual I'm giving you is, think of Lisa Frank. I'm a 90s kid. I born 86, but I just remember Lisa Frank was a big part of my life. Like I loved pink, loved bubblegum, you know, and in Western astrology, I am a Cancer, double Cancer, but Vedic astrology, I'm double Gemini. And something that I realized that I was repressing was this divine feminine aspect of love, beauty, of sensuality, of radiance, of magnetism. And I think it's, you know, when you're so open in that way, when you're so vulnerable in that way, especially as a kid, you know, a lot of it gets squandered, because in this world that can be very patriarchal, that obviously prioritizes logos versus intuition and, you know, that vulnerability. It's easy to have that armor. And so it's very easy to identify more with the destructive force of the divine feminine. It's very easy to align yourself to anger and feel that anger, as opposed to sadness and love and sensitivity. And it's like I had no idea that was so repressed. And so oftentimes, even when I talk about astrology, you'll see me lead with, oh, you know, I'm double Gemini, because there's something in that where you're witty, you're charming, you're flirtatious. It's about Mercury. It's about communication. It's about the mind. It's about the duality, the twins, and, you know, how can you keep up with that type of energy, and being very sociable and likable and charismatic. But there was that piece of that Cancerian, and even in Vedic astrology, my moon is in Cancer, where there was that sensitivity, there was that love, and I equated, and I also align that to Lakshmi. And so my invitation to you is just really think about, where in your life are you still repressing and squandering parts of yourself? Right. And this is an activation that has been very recent in my life of, you know, working with a Jungian mystic analyst and having the Venusian Aphrodite archetype come up in our session. And it was just so mind-boggling, because I had completely forgotten that aspect of myself, completely. But I know it's a part of me that's so very real to my core. Like, I've always loved Valentine's Day. Always, always, always. It was my favorite holiday. In fact, it is probably synonymous to Christmas for me ever since I was a kid. Like, I just love. And so it feels so good to be reignited to that aspect of myself where I was thinking, oh my God, this is a nectar that I haven't drank from in so long. And it feels so good, because I didn't realize how thirsty I was for this type of energy, because it's so easy for me, especially, to relate to that fierce energy, that death-like energy, and understand that destructive force of what needs to be taken away. But the thing is, when we repress those parts of ourselves and we learn to reconnect, it's like new breath is coming, new life is coming. And it's like, oh my God, I feel energized, I feel awakened. And there's a sense of wanting to reconnect more and more to my truth, despite what I think others need to see me as, or others need to view me as, because it feels safer. Right? And so just think about, in your life right now, are there parts that feel very, very repressed? You know, and I think the easiest way that you can conjure up this identity or aspect of yourself is thinking about, what the hell did you love as a kid? Right? Children are just so uninhibited, unfiltered. They really don't give a fuck. And so I invite you to think about, okay, what did you love as a kid? Like, you remember how you had to get folders in school, or backpacks. Like what color was your backpack? My favorite color is pink, fuchsia pink, any kind of pink, any shades of pink. And so I invite you to think about that, to honor that, to recognize that. How can you bring to life a part of you that you have shunned, that you have taken a part of in that collective shunning of yourself to feel safe? And what does it look like to resurrect it in your life? How does it make you feel? What does it look like integrated into your day-to-day life as an adult, knowing that that's that part of you that you had let die? Right? And so now we get to have this beautiful awakening around it, because you have the awareness knowing, okay, maybe before I was subconsciously repressing it, but now that I know that I want to awaken it in me, what does it look like and how do I let it show up in my life where it feels safe? Because the last thing we want to do is open it and express it in a way, in an environment where it doesn't feel safe, where it doesn't feel ready, because then it will just get automatically shunned. And so today is, today's the full moon. Today's the 12th. So today's the full moon in Leo. And it's all about, the Leo is the sun energy. It's about allowing yourself to be that sun, to bask in that sun, to really call forth, like, what do you stand for? What does it look like to embody that I do not care energy of like what you think of me? Because this is who I am, because I no longer need other people to approve of me for my own physical, emotional, financial safety. You're an adult, I'm speaking to adults here who are financially responsible for themselves, who are emotionally responsible for themselves, and physically responsible for themselves. And so when you take that ownership of being accountable, being responsible for taking care of yourself, how do you get to be the leader in your life of what does that shadow side that is truly a part of you, connected to your soul, how does it want to be expressed in the way that you are shining as bright as the sun, as you feel that energy of the sun? And, my mentor, we were recently working together, and she said to me, when the sperm is connected to the egg and that energy is equivalent to the energy of the sun. And it was so interesting because she had not said that in I think like over 30 years. And she said, for whatever reason, I felt to say that to you. And so me being able to pass this on to you, this knowledge, as we are in Leo, in that energy, in that sun-like energy, of that strength, of that courage, and even thinking about the strength card, right? How there's a rose, how there's fierce strength, and there's softness in being strong. It's not just being so strong and just bearing down and having our grips on things and being able to stand for anything, but it's learning to surrender into that softness as well. That requires a lot of strength. Because when we work, especially with the ego, there can be strength in the ego of like being very rigid, or you can allow that water, that flow in your life to allow for new possibilities, new ideas, new thoughts, new shifts in your mindset, new repatterning of things that requires that gentleness to allow the medicine to work within your bones. And so I invite you to really think about, we are in a full moon, and it's all about releasing in this energy. What are you really, really, really wanting to release? What are you really wanting to let die, and working with that energy of the death, but then also knowing that within that same energy holds a duality and that power of that birth that you want to create. And so within the shadow is also the lightness. And you may think like, oh my gosh, the feminine is always about death, rebirth, but that is true. And it was confirmed as I was reading, the book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, because it was just life, death, life. That's the cycle. And how do we learn to see the blessings, the boons in each of our deaths, of ourselves, of relationships, of chapters, even though it may be so hard to see it in that moment. And so I invite you in this full moon cycle to really think about what it is that you have repressed, what it is that you want to release in that repression, and How do you want to bring in forth that new birth, that new invocation of your soul that's just dying to be expressed? Okay, this is a short one. Well, I don't know your definition of short, but it's 20 minutes. But anyways, I hope this serves you. It's been so good to just do just a mini solo episode, but if you want to dive into this more and more in a one-on-one capacity, I have 2 spots left for one-on-one coaching. It's a beautiful 4-month mentorship where we get to really dive deep into the different aspects of yourself that really want to come forth, that your soul is wanting to express, and how can you truly embody self-love, this Venusian energy of love, of beauty, of light, of sensuality. The part that is that feminine radiance, that intuition, that is you. And how can you be that wild, authentic self in order to attract beautiful, healthy, loving relationships in your life? Anyways, I will leave it in the show notes of how to get in touch with me for one of the spots for my one-on-one coaching. But thank you all for listening so much. Drop a comment on what resonated with you, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye, Satnam.